Hi, I'm Molly.
And I'm Jamie, and this is our From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast. As the owners of Hired Hand website software, we've been developing websites and creating internet marketing strategies for livestock breeders for the past 10 years.
The majority of our customers are involved in the breeding of registered animals, such as Texas Longhorn, Highland cattle, horses, and white-tailed deer, where the pedigrees are very important. The From the Pasture with Hired Hand podcast examines many of the differences in raising pedigreed livestock for maximum profit. Join us and learn what we're covering today.
On today's podcast, I'm interviewing Keir Albert with Albert Acres Cattle Company, and we're going to talk with him about his breeding program, as well as other ways that they're incorporating Texas Longhorns into their everyday lifestyle, including selling skulls, hides, and other art, all from central Nebraska. Thanks for joining me today, Keir.
Thank you for having me.
Are you all still in the throes of winter, or has spring arrived in Nebraska?
We had a little snowstorm on the weekend here, but it's back to green grass again, so we're happy about that.
Good deal. Well, go ahead and start by telling our listeners just a little bit about yourself.
I was born in Davenport, Iowa, and we moved around a little bit. Finally moved to the country when I was 4, and we didn't have a property that we could have cows until about 2018. And so we got Angus cattle in the beginning, and in 2019 I bought my first Longhorn heifer, and anticipating it just to be a one-off thing and breed it to an Angus. And we loved them so much that we ended up getting 2 more cows and a bull and sold all the Angus. And in 2020 we switched to all registered cattle. So.
Okay. Do you remember who you purchased some of those first Longhorns from, or kind of who, kind of how you got into it then?
The first Longhorn heifer that I found on Craigslist from Adams Ranch in Hastings, Nebraska. The 3 cows we got after that were just commercial cattle that we picked up in Valentine, Nebraska.
So once you decided that you wanted to make the move from Angus to a full Longhorn herd, was there any special research that you did, or did you kind of change the way that you looked at the first one that you had purchased versus the subsequent ones? Were there any changes there?
At first we were just planning on beef, so registered didn't matter. After we got those first 4, I kind of pushed my parents a little bit, and I said that I really wanted to get into some registered stock. And at that point, I started doing a lot of research on specifically Dickinson Cattle Company's website has tons of good information.
I know it seems a lot of breeders kind of start their research there, and it's nice that you're probably actually a lot closer than some geographically to Dickinson anyway.
It's still about 16 hours, but we've been out there several times picking up cows and really enjoy going out there.
So is the rest of your family involved in the herd, or is it mostly your responsibility?
It's my thing, but my parents help me out on the weekends, and my mom comes to our fencing jobs every single day with me. So,
well, I see quite a few ribbons and banners behind you there, so I'm going to assume that you also got into the show circuit with the Longhorns. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, we went to our first show at the Nebraska State Fair. In 2022, actually, that banner behind me is from there. We take about 6 head, and we've been to Nebraska, South Dakota, and Kansas showing, and we're hoping to do the World Show this year. So,
did you used to show with the Angus, or how did you kind of get acclimated to having to halter break and prepare that way?
I had never shown cattle before until 2022. So for 2022, I just brought all my cows in for the non-haltered division. And then in January, I calved out a nice young bull named Forged in Fire. And that was the first one that I halter broke, and I showed him at the state fair this past year.
Nice. And if I remember correctly from looking at your website, he did pretty well, right? And do you also show his mom? Is that correct?
Yep. I show his mom and his sister, and he got Reserve Grand Champion Youth halter bull last year. So
nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So now that you have Longhorns and you've kind of been in it for a few years, what's your favorite part?
My favorite part is just having them around. I love to go outside and rub their face and feed them snacks and take pictures of them. And I really like showing them to my friends and anybody who wants to see them.
So if we kind of talk about the future of your program, what do you think that the next year looks like? Or also, maybe down the road, 5 years, how will your program change and grow?
In the next year, I'd really like to find myself another rental pasture. We have our piece of ground that's about 20 acres, and then we have a 35-acre rental pasture. I'd like to get another one so I can get a few more head. That would be hopefully in the next year. In the next 5, I'd probably just continue to do the same thing and attempt to continue to expand.
Do you have any plans to go to any shows like outside of Nebraska or the Midwest, or maybe start, with some futurities or anything like that?
We are talking about going down to the, what's the name? Oh, the Battle on the Prairie heifer futurity this year. And we want to do the World Show, which I think that's in Texas this year, or the World Expo.
Awesome. So if you could go back in time and change one thing about when you were getting started, is there anything that you would change?
The one thing I would change would be I would have got a registered bull right off the start. We had a commercial bull, and it kind of inhibited us from getting a registered bull that I really had my eyes on. His name was Flair All Over, and he was for sale about 45 minutes from my house at the place that I bought my first heifer. And by the time we were able to get our commercial bull sold, we kind of missed our opportunity to purchase him.
That's a bummer. Do you still track how he's doing today and stuff? Is he kind of one that you could get back, or you would want to get back if you could?
At this point, I feel that I have, I have a nephew of him now. And I think he may end up being a better bull anyway. So I've kind of moved on from him. But I do know that he got sold to a guy in Texas.
Okay. So do you have any advice that you would give to new breeders, or maybe folks who, are in the spot that you were in a few years ago?
I would say come up with a really good plan. Like if you want to do commercial cattle, that's great. But if you're thinking you want to do registered cattle, make the leap and do all registered cattle.
Is there some advice that you wish someone had given you before you started that's different from that you just shared?
I would say that planning on hay prices, it would have been kind of nice if someone would have given me a look into the future on how expensive hay is right now. But
do you find that now I guess I'm making an assumption here that you're younger than some of the average Longhorn breeders just by our video call here. Do you feel like that puts you at an advantage, or have you had some folks maybe like take you under their wing and really try to help you kind of beat that learning curve that there seems to be with Longhorns?
Yeah, for sure. I think especially in our Nebraska Texas Longhorn Association, everybody wants me to succeed, and it is kind of nice that I have the opportunity to still show in the youth show and in the normal show. So it gives my cows more opportunities to be in the ring.
Love what you're hearing? Be sure to check out our Pickup Truck Confessions. It's a video series where we hop in the truck or rental car and interview a variety of breeders about what drives their passion for their livestock, how they got started in the breed of their choice, marketing tips, and more. And now, back to the podcast.
All right, let's talk a little bit about specific Longhorns now, if you don't mind. So who would you have to say is the all-time favorite in your own pasture, and why?
In my own pasture, I would have to say Line of Pearls. She's coming age 3 now. She's going to be calving here in about a month. She would be my favorite just because she kind of surprised us all. She came out of our cow wrecking line, and we bought her as a pair. So she was about a month old when we got her, so didn't really know what she was going to turn into, and now she's projecting to over 85 inches.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What if you had to pick your all-time favorite Longhorn cow? Who would it be?
Across the entire breed, I'd have to say Silent Iron.
That's a good pick. Why her? Tell us a little bit more about that decision.
I mean, obviously she's been battling back and forth kind of for the world record on tip to tip, but in my opinion, of the top 3 cows, she's by far the most complete of the bunch. And drag iron, you can't go wrong with drag iron. So.
All right. So I feel like we might have led into our next question here. What about your all-time favorite Longhorn bull?
Well, my all-time favorite Longhorn bull, I'm going to have to say, is Flare Galore.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, I actually finally got lucky enough to get a son of him. I have Diamonds Galore now. But Flare Galore, I have seen him in person once, and he is just the most gentle bull you're ever going to see, and he's absolutely massive. And that black and white speckle is pretty impressive.
Nice. And what breeder does he come from?
Dickinson Cattle Company.
Okay. Would you kind of say that the Dickinsons are kind of the overall breeder that you would pick, that you kind of aspire to be?
For sure. I really appreciate buying cows from them. They're the most honest people you're ever going to find. You're never going to have an issue with any of their cows that you don't know about before you purchase them.
Is there anyone else in the industry or the show circuit that you kind of want to give credit to helping you get to where you're at today that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, I'm pretty thankful for Diamond B Cattle Company that allowed me to purchase my Flare Galore son, Diamonds Galore.
Did you get to go out to their ranch to do that, or how did that process work?
Yeah, we did. We drove down there in I believe it was late January, early February of this year to pick him up, and we got to see Silent Iron again and Cut and Dried and a bunch of other really big famous cows. So that was really cool.
Nice. I bet that was a exceptional visit.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, I'm kind of ready to change gears here and talk a little bit about websites and marketing. But before we do that, is there anything else about your ranch, your breeding program, just anything else Longhorn related that you want to share?
Not that I can think of.
Okay. So I guess I'm really curious if this answer is going to be different since, like I mentioned, you're a little bit younger than a lot of our podcast guests. So what would you say the average amount of time that you spend looking at Longhorn websites in a week is?
Probably about 12 hours or so.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about what you're looking for, what contributes to that time, basically.
I like to look at, well, obviously sale pens to see if there's anything that I'd be interested in purchasing. But I really do like to look at people's specific herds on their cows and their bulls and study their pedigrees and see what my animals have that I can kind of build towards what they have as far as their superior animals and their genetics. Okay.
Are you willing to share what the last 3 Longhorn sites in your search history might be?
The last 3 would probably be TexasLonghorn.com, so Dickinson Cattle Company, Diamond B Longhorns, and Arrowhead Cattle Company.
Okay. What would you say your favorite website aside from your own is, and why?
Arrowhead Cattle Company is pretty cool with the gallery of horns in there, and the what do they call it? Where you can buy straws of semen on their site. I forget what they call it, but
the semen hub, right?
Yep, that's right.
So how frequently do you feel like you're checking the gallery of horns and really using that as a tool?
I check that at least once a week.
Nice. Do you find that you find something new each time you visit?
Yeah, it's like the lower sizes, like the 80-inch club. You find a lot of new ones in there a lot. The 100-inch club is obviously a little more elite, so it doesn't change quite as often. But
yeah, it's fun to track those up and comers, though. I feel like there's something new on there every time I look as well.
Yep.
What would you say? Let's talk about social media for a little bit. So what is your kind of go-to social media if you're looking to find some new Longhorns?
I don't do a whole lot with social media. My parents run the Facebook page for our company, so I pretty much exclusively search for Longhorns on websites.
Okay. So you don't use like Instagram or TikTok or any of those to kind of either promote your program or try to find new animals?
Nope, Facebook is the only thing we use for our business. So.
Okay. Do you find that when you're using Facebook for your marketing, that you're using it kind of regionally, or are you trying to get just the word out among the industry?
Well, we'll use we always repost our stuff on the Longhorn Friends, and there's another Longhorn site or a Longhorn page on there. And then when we do paid ads on Facebook, we maintain the regional for the most part because of our fencing and skid steer services.
Okay. Talk to me a little bit about that and how it, kind of how you got started in that or how it relates to your program.
So I started looking into a way to pay for my cow obsession, and a skids loader business seemed like a good fit because we needed a piece of equipment around the house too. So I got my skid loader in January of 2022 and started off just doing skid steer work with tree removal and light grading jobs and pretty much anything anyone wanted to hire me for. Then I had the one guy that summer that asked me to build a fence. And I said, well, I don't really do that. He's like, but I know you can do that. And I said, well, okay, I'll build it. And we really enjoy building fence. So we added that to the business. And that's when our business really started getting busy, is now we work pretty much 7 days a week trying to keep up.
That's awesome. Do you find that it opens any conversations about the Longhorns, or are the two kind of separate at this time?
They're somewhat separate. We pretty much everybody we talk to with the fencing, of course, they have commercial cattle. And
what about like, I know when we were working on getting your website live, you had mentioned skulls and hides and artwork. Tell me a little bit about that aspect of things.
Yeah, I do that mostly for fun, but I haven't sold I did sell a couple that I did on commission, but right now we've got 3 of them that we need to sell, and just enjoyed doing the skulls. The hides is something that I haven't really sold anything yet because I'm still working on perfecting that. That's a little bit of a challenge, but
yeah, I've heard that that's a very time intensive process.
Yeah, for sure. It takes about 2 weeks of very strict schedule to get it done the right way. So,
well, we'll have to check back in with you in a few months or a year or so and see, if you've made some progress in those other areas. I would imagine that it would be a hard to find product in Nebraska, probably. So hopefully you do well with it. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share before we sign off today?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and we will link your new Hired Hand website URL in the show notes, as well as a few of the other breeders that you mentioned, so that our listeners can go and hopefully check them out.
Sounds great. Thank you.